I'm still convinced people are lying to us. I believe those close to Claudia have not been truthful, and I'm determined to give them every chance to come forward with the right information. But if they continue to lie, and we prove it, they will be arrested. On the 27th of February, 1974, Peter and Joan Lawrence welcomed their second child, a little girl named Claudia. Peter was a respected and successful solicitor, and the family lived comfortably in Yorkshire. Claudia attended the prestigious York College for Girls, where she was known as happy, sociable, and surrounded by good friends. Even after her parents later divorced, she remained close to both of them. As she grew older, Claudia discovered her passion for cooking. She went to a local catering college, quickly qualified as a chef, and began working in various restaurants and hotels around York. But the long, unsociable hours eventually became too much. Wanting a more balanced life, she took a job at Goodricke College at the University of York. Her employer described her as reliable, hard-working, and always on time. By 2007, Claudia had settled comfortably into the area and bought a small cottage about 3 miles from her workplace. Nearby was the Nag's Head pub, where she became a well-liked regular. Although she was close to her family and older sister, Allie, Claudia kept some aspects of her life private. She was believed to have had several short-term relationships, but didn't discuss them openly. On Wednesday, the 18th of March, 2009, Claudia clocked into work at 6 a.m. She finished her shift around 2 p.m., and CCTV captured her leaving on foot. An hour later, she was seen again on another CCTV camera near her home and spotted by a neighbor. A colleague driving past offered her a lift and dropped her off at 2:50 p.m. That evening, she spoke with several friends and her parents. Her mother later said Claudia sounded completely normal, chatty, relaxed, and making plans for Mother's Day. Claudia mentioned that because her car was being repaired, she needed to sleep early to walk to work the next morning. But the next day, at around 6 a.m., Claudia, who was never late, didn't arrive at work. Her manager called her mobile, which rang but went to voicemail. Assuming she might have taken unexpected time off, no further action was taken. Claudia also planned to meet her friend Susie Cooper at the Nag's Head that evening. Susie arrived, but Claudia never showed. This was unlike her, and repeated calls to Claudia's Samsung D900 went unanswered. The following morning, Friday the 20th, Susie tried again. Still nothing. She contacted Goodricke College and was alarmed to learn Claudia had not been at work for 2 days. Susie immediately called Claudia's father. Peter drove to his daughter's house, and together, they searched the property. Nothing was out of place. The bed was made, breakfast dishes were in the sink, and hair dye bottles suggested she had recently dyed her hair. No signs of disturbance. The only things missing were her mobile phone, her blue rucksack, and her hair straighteners. Items she usually carried to work. It looked as though Claudia had left for work as normal that Thursday morning, but never made it there. At around 2 p.m. on Friday, Claudia was officially reported missing. Police visited the house, but finding no signs of violence and believing she wasn't vulnerable, were slow to react. They suggested she might have gone away for a few days, but her family insisted Claudia would never leave without telling someone. They feared she had been abducted. Every year, around 3,500 people go missing in the North Yorkshire area, with most returning after a short time. Police initially assumed Claudia was part of that statistic, but as hours turned into days with no contact, that assumption was quickly dismissed. Investigators considered the possibility of an accident or medical emergency, but her entire walking route to work was searched thoroughly, with no trace of her. Weeks went by, with no sign of Claudia. 5 weeks after her disappearance, the inquiry officially shifted from a missing person case to a suspected murder investigation. Another theory was that she had been the victim of a random violent offender or serial killer. But investigations into known criminals active in the region at that time led nowhere. Statistically, most victims know they're killers. Soon, detectives focused on a more likely scenario, that Claudia had encountered someone she knew, possibly connected to one of her private relationships. Crime Stoppers offered a £10,000 reward, and over 1,000 calls came in. One witness said they'd seen a woman they believed was Claudia speaking with a man at 5:35 a.m. on the 19th of March on Melrose Gate Bridge near her home. The man was described as skinny, left-handed, wearing a dark hoodie and combat trousers. The woman had mousy brown hair and a blue waist-length jacket. Despite efforts, this lead, nicknamed the left-handed smoker, never produced answers. The community was shaken. Even the Archbishop of York, John Sentamu, made a public plea for information. In June 2009, Crime Watch aired a reconstruction of Claudia's last known movements. Just weeks later, Claudia's father posted a YouTube appeal, and awareness campaigns continued across the region. Claudia's mobile phone became central to the investigation. Records showed she spent increasing time in the Acombe area before disappearing. The phone stayed on until shortly after midday on March 19th, when it was deliberately switched off. Cell tower data indicated it had never left the local area. On the evening of the 18th, she replied to a text at 8:30 p.m., but ignored another message sent at 9:15 p.m., reportedly from a man living in Cyprus. By September, the search had expanded to Cyprus, where Claudia had holidayed and even explored job opportunities. Several people she knew there were reluctant to help investigators. Months passed with no answers. Christmas and New Year arrived, painful reminders of her absence. In March 2010, police searched areas around York, including muddy tracks and fields near the university. Nothing was found, and it was later believed that false information had prompted the search. Detectives became increasingly convinced that Claudia's relationships could hold the key to the truth. A Sky TV journalist covering the case reported being warned off the story twice, something they had never experienced in any other missing person case. By then, the leading theory remained Claudia had left her home that Thursday morning and was abducted and likely murdered by someone she knew. 4 years passed, and Claudia's family was still no closer to understanding what had happened. In June 2013, North Yorkshire Police announced the creation of a new major crime unit costing £300,000. In October, they revealed several cold cases were being reopened, one of them being the disappearance of Claudia Lawrence. The new team re-examined every detail. Advances in forensic science allowed investigators to carry out more sophisticated tests inside Claudia's home. During this renewed analysis, male DNA was found on a cigarette butt inside her car. Exactly 5 years after she vanished, Crime Watch aired previously unreleased CCTV footage from 2009. It showed a silver Ford Focus driving along the road where Claudia lived. As the car approached her house, its brake lights flickered on. Police also appealed for information on a second vehicle, a white Vauxhall Astra van captured on a bus camera. It had been parked across from Claudia's home for at least 30 minutes, around 9 p.m. on March 18th. Soon, the investigation took an unexpected turn. Under the direction of a new lead detective, several arrests were made. Each of the men arrested was believed to have had either relationships with Claudia or knowledge of them. In May 2014, a 59-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murdering her. Police searched a semi-detached house less than a mile from Claudia's home. But months later, he was released without charge. In July 2014, another arrest followed. Paul Harris, landlord of the Comber pub, was detained on suspicion of perverting the course of justice. He too was released. He stated that his only connection to Claudia was that she had occasionally visited his pub. Nearly 6 years after Claudia's disappearance, detectives insisted that some people they had interviewed were still withholding information. They emphasized that those closest to her were not being entirely truthful. Investigators showed particular interest in the alleyway behind Claudia's house, suggesting it would have been the logical escape route if something had happened inside her home. More CCTV was released on the 6th anniversary of her disappearance. At 7:15 p.m. on March 18th, a camera captured an individual walking toward the alley behind Claudia's house. A little over a minute later, they reappeared, pausing briefly to let someone cross the road ahead. The footage disturbed many viewers, and police urged the public to help identify both individuals. On the same camera, around 10 hours later at 5:07 a.m., another figure was seen moving back and forth near the same alleyway. Investigators questioned whether it was the same person, possibly connected to the witness report of a woman resembling Claudia, speaking with a man smoking with his left hand on Melrose Gate Bridge. The timing and location were strikingly close. In 2016, North Yorkshire Police presented the case to the Crown Prosecution Service, seeking permission to charge 4 men with Claudia's murder. The CPS refused, citing insufficient evidence. All 4 men, who had been regulars at the Nag's Head pub, denied involvement. According to police, several witnesses still refused to cooperate. The second investigation was eventually closed. Meanwhile, former detective Stephen Fulcher, known for leading the investigation into killer Christopher Halliwell, noted similarities between Halliwell's crimes and Claudia's disappearance. He referenced a recorded phone call in which Halliwell mentioned that police wanted to speak to him about 8 murders, a number investigators did not recognize. Fulcher suggested that if Halliwell had committed multiple killings, the figure 8 might even be an underestimate. Halliwell denied any involvement in Claudia's disappearance when questioned in prison. Although the witness description of the left-handed smoker matched his appearance and habits, both North Yorkshire and Wiltshire police stated there was no evidence linking him to Claudia's case. As the years passed, criticism grew regarding how the initial investigation had been handled. Many questioned the early delays and missed opportunities. During this time, Claudia's father, Peter Lawrence, began campaigning for legal reform. His efforts eventually led to Claudia's Law, passed in July 2019, allowing families of missing people to manage their affairs after 90 days. Tragically, Peter Lawrence died in February 2021, never learning what happened to his daughter. Claudia's friends and family continue to hope that one day the truth will emerge. The website created by her father still lists contact information for anyone wishing to submit a tip or share information that might help solve the case.